Did you know that in some ancient societies the death of a king meant that dozens, sometimes hundreds servants' courtiers would be killed to join him in the afterlife? It is a startling thought, one that feels incredibly distant from our modern world. Yet for thousands of years this was a grim reality for countless people. Human sacrifice was not a rare or isolated event. It was a practice that spanned the globe, touching nearly every continent. From the sun-drenched pyramids of Central America to the misty bogs of Northern Europe, communities believed taking a human life was sometimes necessary. Across the Atlantic in what is now Mexico, the Aztec Empire offers one of the most well-known and perhaps most dramatic examples of large-scale human sacrifice. Their cosmology was built around a constant struggle. They believed their gods, particularly the sun god Huitzilopochtli, required a steady diet of human hearts and blood to have the strength to fight off the darkness each night and rise again the next morning. Without these offerings, the world would be plunged into eternal night. This belief led to ritual sacrifices on a scale that is difficult to comprehend, with ceremonies that were central to their state and society. Meanwhile, in ancient Egypt, a different form of sacrifice took place, known as retainer sacrifice. When a pharaoh died, it was believed he would become a god in the afterlife. Archaeological evidence from the early dynasties at sites like Abydos reveals subsidiary graves surrounding the royal tombs. At its heart, the practice of human sacrifice was often driven by a profound and overwhelming sense of fear. Ancient peoples lived in a world where they were at the mercy of forces far beyond their control. A sudden drought could wither their crops and lead to starvation. A devastating flood could wash away their homes in an instant. Epidemics could sweep through a community, leaving devastation in their wake. Without a scientific understanding of weather patterns or microbiology, they attributed these events to the moods of powerful and often temperamental gods. Sacrificing a human was the ultimate appeal, a desperate plea to restore balance and win back divine favor. Religion provided the framework and the justification for these terrifying acts. It was the belief system that made the unthinkable seem not only necessary but righteous. Priests and spiritual leaders held immense influence, acting as intermediaries between the human and divine realms. They interpreted omens, they read the stars. When they proclaimed that only a human life could avert a catastrophe or consecrate a sacred space, their followers would have felt a powerful obligation to comply. To refuse would be to endanger the entire community, to defy the very order of the cosmos as they understood it. The methods of sacrifice were as diverse as the cultures themselves, each steeped in its own unique symbolism. For the Aztecs, the most common ritual involved leading the victim up the steep steps of a pyramid. 4 priests would hold the victim down over a sacrificial stone. A 5th priest would raise an obsidian blade. He would cut open the chest and pull out the still beating heart. The heart, the vessel of life and energy, would be offered to the gods. The body would be cast down the temple stairs. It was highly organized, public, and profoundly violent, made to be seen by the masses below. The victims of these rituals came from all walks of life, their selection often depending on the purpose of the sacrifice, an unblemished child. The decline of human sacrifice was a slow and uneven process, driven by profound shifts in human society and belief. One of the most significant drivers of this change was the rise of large, centralized states and new universalizing religions. As empires expanded, they often absorbed or conquered cultures that practiced sacrifice. Rulers of these new, larger domains like the Romans often viewed the practice as barbaric and a threat to civil order. The evolution of religious thought itself played a crucial role. New philosophical and spiritual ideas began to emerge. They spread across the globe, promoting a different kind of morality. These faiths often introduced the concept of symbolic sacrifice. Instead of a human life, an animal could be offered, or even more profoundly, the sacrifice could become internal, an offering of prayer, fasting, personal devotion. The logic of empire and commerce slowly eroded the logic of fear and appeasement that had sustained the practice for so long. Reflecting on this dark chapter of our history teaches us a powerful, if unsettling, lesson about human nature. It shows us how potent belief systems can be, capable of leading entire societies to accept practices that we now find abhorrent. It is a humbling reminder that what seems logical or necessary is often defined by the culture and the time in which we live. By studying these ancient rituals, we do not just look back at a savage past, we look into a mirror that reflects the awesome power of faith, the dangers of absolute authority, and our species' long, complicated journey toward a more compassionate understanding of the world. It asks us to hold our beliefs up to scrutiny, to remember how power and fear can conspire to justify terrible acts. And it reminds us that moral progress is fragile, contingent on education, empathy, and institutions that protect human life. We study these rituals not to gloat over a savage past, but to learn, to be vigilant, and to choose compassion over fear. Sources and further reading appear in the description. If you found this illuminating, like and subscribe for more history deep dives.